Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, but the sixth. Yeah, that's right, the sixth ever edition of the Fintech Week in Review. Let's run that intro. Quick caveat, I'm just not really feeling it. There's so much information coming through in fintech that I'm not really getting the structure of this thing yet right. So I'm going to think this week about how to make this a bit more punchy, a bit more focused, and a bit more relevant across dimensions. I feel like leaning too much toward the challenger banks, and there's so much other stuff happening that I'm going to try and find a way to culminate that information and really dive into some really useful different dimension parts for this FinTech Week in Review. Thanks. Let's hit them with the first one. So first on my list, back to the marketplace fiasco. Monzo and Starling Bank have now both integrated with MoneyHub, and this is a cool one actually. And I had the pleasure of just last week being in London, and I met PensionBee. So PensionBee integrated with Starling, I think 2 months ago or something like that. I met Claire over at PensionBee, and it's amazing to see how this stuff is developing because those marketplaces are helping boost everybody, but also, the value it is creating. I thought to myself when I met Claire, how many pensions have I had since I've been working in the UK? And it's quite a few. And what they do, for example, is they culminate all the pensions that you have and they allow you to kind of better manage those assets. And that leads into MoneyHub a little bit because that's exactly what MoneyHub is going to help with. It's going to help people with different assets. I think it has one of the best open APIs for banking, tapped into almost everything, your credit cards, your loans, all assets that you own. And they've introduced this thing called smart nudges. So if you're using Monzo, if you're using Starling, it will actually nudge you when certain things happen in the marketplace that you should be aware of. And what do you think of that, Finks? Yeah, pretty cool, right? Man. So Barclays is the next on the list, and Barclays is another one of the bigger players now getting into more of the fintech space. So they're actually launching a tech venture unit. I believe it's called BUKV, and they've appointed a guy called Ben Davey who's going to head up that division. And I think the remit of that unit and what they're trying to do is really begin to heavily invest in third-party fintech firms. It's probably going to be a new revenue stream for them, but it's interesting to see more and more big player banks really begin to start trying to catch up and inclusive with as many fintechs as possible. The marketplaces are going. This is probably something linked to some of that, and that's going to be really interesting to see how that one develops as well. Nice one, Barclays. Next up, Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs steps into the picture, and they've just acquired a company called Clarity Money. For those of you who don't know, Goldman Sachs actually also has its own division of some sort of digital bank. It's actually called Marcus, and they're going to incorporate this new acquisition into Marcus. And Marcus is very much helping people sort of with their investments and savings because they have a savings account. But the acquisition of Clarity should be quite interesting for them. Clarity on its own raised over almost $15 million when it launched back in January, since it's launched back in January. And I think it's going to bring over 1 million new users to Marcus for Goldman Sachs. It kind of is similar to me to the MoneyHub integration sort of concept that Monzo and Sterling have done. It's going to help, and what Clarity Money does is it helps you to spot better returns on offerings that are happening live in the market. So Metro Bank is launching an AI engine that's going to help its users in terms of spotting spending patterns, but also trends to help them become a bit more savvy when it comes to those really annoying things like, for example, a recurring subscription that you completely forgot about, or all kinds of random things in terms of where you can begin to proactively save money. All the challenger banks, now that I'm aware of, yeah, they're really great at sort of spotting patterns in terms of like notifying you when you've made these spends and sort of categorizing them into types of spend, but no one yet has developed the AI to kind of predict and advise you on where you can proactively make savings. That's quite fun. I wasn't aware Metro Bank was doing this, and I think they partnered up with an Israeli company. What was it called? One second. It was called Pretorix, I think. Personetics, and they're an Israeli company. So and as Israel produces some of the most interesting stuff right now. So really keen to see what happens here. But again, heating up that space. People are starting to move very fast in fintech. So nice one, Metro Bank. And here's an off-spin one, and it's one that I actually missed back in March, which happened towards the end of March. And it's actually Uber. He applied for an e-money license in Amsterdam, which I completely missed. But I thought that was a pretty useful one to dive into. For those of you who don't know, Uber was actually banned here in Copenhagen and in Denmark in general. They were fought very heavily by the government, and I think there was also this ban that came about. Well, they lost their license to operate in London, which I think has now been resolved by its own. But Uber's been such an aggressive player. They've been expanding. They've been doing their thing. But I'm personally a big Uber fan. I mean, I've used it for many years, and now that it's gone in Denmark, it's really quite difficult to get around by taxi. But that's kind of interesting to see that one play, and I think their reason for applying for the e-money license was to completely improve the way they handle payments within their own system and kind of allow them to do a bit more disruptive stuff as they grow into new markets. That's pretty much it. Pretty short, pretty quick, and to the point. Hope it was useful. If it's not useful, please let me know. I'm just trying to find this new way, as I mentioned before. The next ones are going to be a bit more structured, a bit more focused, and I'm going to try and expand the content to be a bit more engaging and also be a bit more creative in the delivery. Thanks as always joining me here, but I want to think of something new that's going to be more fun and kind of funner to sort of do this with. But please subscribe to my channel if you're not doing that already. I'll do my best to keep producing some funny content. But other than that, have a great Sunday and peace out. See you next week.